First and Now is brought to you by World Vision Canada, national charity partner of the BC Lions. Visit bclions.com/worldvision to become a supporter. Matt Baker and young Nicholas Kowalski, who is a little light in the wallet this week, but he's got memories and stories for days.
Yeah, you only live once.
You made it home. How you made it? Have you slept yet? Have you what?
One piece. Luckily, I can sleep in airplanes, so had that covered.
Yeah.
Had a good flight too. Left at about 2 p.m. yesterday. Got here at about midnight this morning, and we're back in one piece. You only live once because I went to the Super Bowl. I was there in person.
Yes. Well, first off, we were all following your work, yourself, and the MOJ last week. In fact, I was very happy. I worked the Patrick Mahomes clip into one of my press releases this week.
That.
Did you notice that?
I saw that with Michael Highway. I read it when I was prepping for our show here.
So MOJ, who's our guest today, coming up on this very jam-packed episode of the podcast, hopefully the check from MOJ is in the mail for increasing your guys' engagement from New Orleans, for whatever that's worth. But yeah, let's talk about it. Well, let's work back. You decided to stay and go to the game, which is excellent.
Thursday night, yeah, I decided because our flight originally was on Friday, and I thought that, I don't know how many more of these MOJ is going to go to. Oh, every opportunity is a blessing and all of those things. So check the ticket prices, and next thing you know, I'm going solo to the game. I actually met a guy named Rich from Buffalo, who's same boat. He expected his Bills to be there, so he was wearing a Bill shirt. He's wearing a blue Bill shirt. A lot of Bills and Lions gear. Not to any surprise, though, right?
That's kind of a Grey Cup-esque vibe. That's right. Yeah,
I guess their teams ultimately didn't get to the big dance, but you see why they were there in the first place, or at least we're banking on it. So, yeah, no regrets at all. Experience of a lifetime. I'm sure you can attest to this. The entrances of each team, they come in individually, all as a team.
Yep.
That was electric. I had goosebumps. The halftime shows. It was incredible. It's just bigger. Like the Grey Cup is bigger. The Super Bowl is bigger. It is such a remarkable event, and crazy game though. Hey.
Well, I was gonna say watching it on TV, little get together with the family. Was it a very Eagles dominant crowd? It sounded
at least
like
2/3.
Yeah,
at least. And
part of that is one, those fans travel well, and there's Eagles fans all over America to an extent too, right? Yeah. Kansas City, they've been going every year, 5 or 6 years, whatever it's been. And maybe for a lot of those folks, the novelty wears off a little bit. Don't have to get into it in detail what it costs, but it's not cheap to go to these every year either for those fans. But was lucky to get to one in New Orleans. Saw my Niners lose to the Ravens. Was kind of circling around the concourse. I had an accreditation, but not a seat.
Oh,
but I was able to see snippets of it. Was there for the power outage and everything. That was kind of scary. So I know, New Orleans takes the cake, right?
The French Quarter, like Bourbon Street, obviously. I like that. Did you go to Frenchman Street?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like that because it's
multiple times.
More tame than Bourbon. Bourbon straight chaos. Louisiana swamp tours.
Didn't do that thing.
Worth every penny. I paid about $50 American, and they pick you up from your hotel.
They had more
take
time,
you down there, bring you back. Oh,
yeah.
Captain Jason was my tour guide. He was kissing alligators, feeding them marshmallows.
Saw your little Instagram thing.
Just crazy.
But Frenchman Street. You're right, and I love New Orleans so much. I decided I got to come back for an actual holiday. So, wife and I, a couple years after that, went to visit some friends of ours in Houston, and then went down to New Orleans from Houston for 4 or 5 days, and went back to Frenchman Street. Did a riverboat cruise.
Oh yeah, that's
kind
good.
of you catch it kind of by Cafe Du Monde there.
Yep,
and it was awesome. We went, I think it was late October, early November, so the weather was outstanding still. So. Yeah, I'm with you. That week, that game was ripe with storylines. Is Gronk coming up to Whistler this week, or what's the latest there?
Hey, allegedly, that was an engagement farm for us. MOJ knows how to get some good answers out of A-listers. So that was if you haven't checked it out, go to MOJ's Instagram. Got Gronk giving Vancouver some love and saying he wants to head up to Whistler. So that was our best post of the week, actually.
Well, yeah, and I'll take the words out of your mouth too. I'm kind of in this you only live once phase.
Oh, yeah.
Going back to Vegas next week, me and my old man going to go catch the Canucks on the Saturday night, and we're looking, we don't know yet. My dad's a big fan of Eagles, the band, and they're doing a residency at
Sphere.
At Sphere.
Do it.
We're kind of looking,
do it.
A few $100. Well,
do it.
I'm going to leave it up. He's the bigger fan. I'm going to leave it up to him. I'm not going to go without him.
But the Sphere seems like just a once in a lifetime kind of. I want to. That's on my bucket list. Everyone just raves about it. Yeah,
we went last year when we went. We just went to look outside and take some pictures, and you can do this. You can do the actual tour package, and we heard mixed reviews on it inside. Decided against it, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how we do at the blackjack table on Thursday night when we arrive.
Can fund it, yeah.
There you go. I mean, the hockey tickets weren't that expensive, so we'll see.
But yeah.
Good for you. That's awesome. And again, we're going to talk to Moj here in a few minutes, talk about some actual BC Lions news of the week as we're still on this New Orleans craze. But excellent job by all of you on the ground in New Orleans, and you were there. It happened to be legal tampering week in the CFL, and listening to our friends JC Abbott, Justin Dunk, John Hodge, the 3 Down Nation podcast, Hodge was kind of amazed that, and Dunk too, to an extent, that we made all these moves that didn't really get reported last week. I think Adam O'Clair was the only one that had been reported, but
lips are sealed.
Yeah, very busy few days for Ryan Rigmaiden, Neil McAvoy, Buck Pierce. Where do you want to start, Nikki, with this whole free agent frenzy? I know this is our first recording since the likes of Justin McInnes and Chris Slugger and Jalen Edwards-Cooper were re-signed, but some new look additions. I love it.
I think you got to start with the receivers, right? Because that's what shaped out what the BC Lions did on free agency, right? And it goes all the way back to Justin McInnes extending at the end of January, right? That's the team's big fish. You know, Buck Pearson at his opening head coach press conference named Justin McInnes as a priority guy to get back, and you get back one of the elite receivers in the CFL, which is a huge signing to be alongside Nathan Rourke. That leads to Alex Hollins getting cut, Keon Hatcher getting cut, and then Keon Hatcher Sr., getting brought back. So now your receiving core is intact. You got McInnes, Hatcher, Katoy, Berryhill, Aberhart, Braden Lenius. Don't be sleeping on Braden Lenius as another name here.
Ryzen John, an addition, kind of flew under the radar, I think, local boy.
Exactly, but that shapes up everything, right? And then there's other re-signings throughout the way, like Chris Slugger, Jalen Edwards-Cooper that you mentioned, Marcus Moore. But then the offensive line was a position that you didn't know what the BC Lions were going to do. Obviously, there was a Dejon Allen trade, the right tackle for this season. But Michael Couture comes back on a 1-year deal last week. So there you have your center in place. Jarrell Broxton's your left tackle. So now you're looking at what you're going to do with your guards, right? Chris Slugger's a name that's going to be in the mix there. Tyler Packer's under contract. Andrew Pearson's under contract. But David Foucault, formerly of the BC Lions, is a name that's brought back on day 1 of free agency.
Size, right? Got bigger. Yeah. All these positions. You look at these receivers we're talking about. David Foucault.
David?
Well,
you got to say David?
David. That's what I used to say to Menard all the time, and he loved it. So.
Well, industry trick here is if you want to learn how to say a guy's name, you just ask him, right?
There you go.
I've always done that with people, but I know in your press release you said Foucault for his last name, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's
a lot of people get that wrong. Foucault is a pronunciation you hear sometimes, but I remember that from the last time he played here. So,
but there's an addition, right? Because the guards right now at this team, there's going to be spots up for grabs, right? Anu Una, last year's first round pick, is another name to keep an eye on. So, it's February 12th right now, but I can already tell we're going to be talking about these 2 guard positions up until training camp, or probably week 1 actually, seeing how all those battles play out. But that's a position that I've had my eye on, and then even before free agency opens, there's a lot of players were getting released ahead of their off-season bonuses or granted their release and or requested it. Test the market early, and a guy that fit that bill we haven't talked about since he was brought in is Dwayne Hendricks.
Yeah, huge,
and that's going to be a sneaky addition in my opinion. In the interior of the defensive line, he was a guy who almost had double-digit sacks for the Argos in 2023, and then last year goes over to Hamilton. I thought against us, he was someone that Vernon Adams Jr. would tell you was a pain in the side of him because Dwayne Hendricks, he creates a lot of pressure. And it's not just pressure too. He gets to the quarterback from that interior defensive tackle spot too. So I don't know, with the likes of Matthew Betts and Sione Tuihema on those edges that are going to be generating a lot of attention, is Dwayne Hendricks a guy who can get double-digit sacks this season?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned he was most recently with Hamilton, but you mentioned his time with Toronto. You look back at that first Argonaut team that defeated Winnipeg in 2022. McLeod Bethel Thompson, did he have an all-world type year? No, but you look at the makeup of that team, that defensive line, Robbie Smith, a major disruptor in that Grey Cup game. Was Ralph Hawley another one of those guys?
They'd Brinkman.
Yeah. All these guys have gone to the Edmonton Elks now, but, when I found out that we were going to get Hendricks, I went back and watched some old footage. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy, Winnipeg was kind of known for having the cream of the crop on the offensive line, but they got outplayed big time by the Argonauts front in that game by the likes of Mr. Hendricks. So I'm with you. I think that's one that I don't want to say it's gotten lost now because it was in that early wave of guys that got released, but this is going to be an impactful newcomer on this team. You're right.
100%. And I think he's a physical presence too. And it kind of goes naturally into the next big free agent signing that the Lions made yesterday is Micah Alway.
Yeah.
He's back. And Rand Rigmaiden has harped on this, and he said it yesterday again in his press conference post free agency that he wants this team to be tougher. And Micah Alway is as tough and as physical as they come.
Intense.
At the linebacker position.
In practice. You see it in practice with this player. Yes.
He's a beast. And he almost has a switch, right? Because he's always like smiling and he's shaking your hand and being all friendly off the field.
Off the field, yeah.
He has a switch.
Yeah.
Because he's a mean linebacker on the field and brings that toughness. Broke some tackling records for the Calgary Stampeders too. So, when you're playing in the West, you're going to have to be dealing with Brady Oliveira, obviously, AJ Ouellette in Sask, Rock Armstead in Sask. I mean, the Elks with Trey Ford and Rankin and Javon Leake. Like, the running backs in the Western Division are elite, and they got speed, they got bruisers, they got it all. And Micah Alway, in my opinion, is a guy that if you pair him with Josh Woods, you pair him with Ben Haladic up in the middle there, I think they're right there to deal with the speed of the West Division running backs, but also the bully ball that this division entails.
Yeah, and Adam Auclair, another sneaky good addition. Laval guy. These Laval guys, they know how to win, and he's a two-time Vanier Cup champ. Was an All-Canadian with the Rouge Or. Adam Konar, that's going to do wonders for the special teams.
Yeah, veteran Canadian.
And we have to mention, we have a couple minutes, Jeremiah Masoli. We were kind of wondering in the back of our minds, what are they going to do behind Nathan Rourke? Are they going to let Chase Bryce have the number 2 spot, bring in a guy to challenge him? Now we know the answer. Masoli persevered through injuries, and obviously his time in Ottawa was overshadowed by the broken leg and the Achilles injury after he came back amazingly from that. But we've seen firsthand, and look at it, this is a player who's 5th on the Hamilton Ticats all-time passing list. He's had an all-star season. He's played in the Grey Cup for the Tiger Cats. So, as far as veteran experience behind Nathan Rourke, you're not going to get better than this right now.
And it's a little bit of going back to the well too, right? Because in 2023, behind Vernon Adams Jr., you saw Dane Evans come over from Hamilton, and Dane played a big role too, right? He had a massive win against his old team in Hamilton, but also came back in that Watermelon Smash game in relief duty and got the win there. So, yeah, we say it every year. Something Rick Campbell always used to say is that you need 2 quarterbacks in this league to win. Jeremiah Masoli, he's 36 years old, comes with wisdom, but is also a baller. And I don't know, you got to have an Oregon quarterback on your team, right? I think it's almost
that's
so
prerequisite.
Nice to have some, or not even Oregon duck, but just a duck in general, right? So nice to have Jeremiah on the roster this year. And now the quarterback room is looking as good as it can be in this league, I think. Nathan Rourke, Jeremiah Masoli, and Chase Bryce, and then
Garrett Schrader from Syracuse, the new addition. So there's a solid 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a PR spot up for grabs, I'm sure they're going to add another quarterback by the time we get up to Kamloops, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all shapes out. One of the crazy things too is that I don't know if our fan base knows this, but maybe the diehards would know this, but Jeremiah Masoli was originally an Edmonton Eskimo back in
2012. Yeah.
He was traded along with Simone Lawrence to Hamilton for Carson Rockhill and Nathan Kanya. And I think that's got to be one of the
Turned out okay for the Cats.
Probably one of the most one-sided trades in history.
Yeah.
I don't know. Jeremiah Mazzoli's a Hall of Famer. Maybe he's around that. You could debate it maybe at this point. And Hamilton for sure. They're Wall of Honor or whatever they have going on over there. But Simone Lawrence is a Hall of Famer probably, right? So you got maybe 2 Hall of Famers for
loved it.
Sorry, Mr. Rockhill and Mr. Kanya. No names in the CFL, but that's a crazy trade for me. So. And I think, another name too that just before we hit Moj here that I want to bring up, Deontay Williams.
Yes.
He is a physical cornerback. He had this altercation with Dom Rhymes last year when Ottawa and Sask were playing each other. And Dom Rhymes obviously going to Calgary now. VA's in Calgary. Don't be surprised if you see Deontay Williams and Dominique Grimes kind of re-engaging the little beef they have. Calgary and BC, we've kind of been those natural rivals these last couple of years.
Well, no more Cam Judge in Calgary, so something's got to replace that.
Well, if you don't think Vernon Adams Jr. is going to come in here feeling some type of way when the Stampeders roll in, you're mistaken. So I think VA, Rhymes, Nathan, not to say Nathan and VA had any beef. They're obviously great teammates, but I think the Calgary BC games this year, there's going to be some fireworks.
It's too bad we're not going to have one until September? Oh well, that's.
Hey, we'll transition into this a little later, but we're going to have one on the island coming up in May. I know it doesn't count, but
we know Nathan Rourke's playing that. Dwayne Vanu, our president, made that announcement on Buck Pierce's behalf. Let's quickly talk about that. If it works. You got to go to New Orleans. Liam and I and Nathan Rourke and a cast of other characters got to go to Langford. Jokes aside, very fun day. I don't think you were there, but we got a taste of it during Touchdown Pacific, the day 3 practice on Thursday.
Yeah, Starlight.
And it was funny. We went there and there was snow on the turf, and they were getting the field ready for CONCACAF soccer later that night. There was a Mexican side coming up to play, the Cavalry FC team from Calgary. Anyway, middle of the press conference, this random dude shows up with a Mexican flag, and he's just kind of hanging around.
No
and
way.
we're kind of so after went over, I went up to him and said, "Hey, sir, are you with the team?" He says, "No, I'm just a huge fan. I flew up here for the game." That's how diehard they are for. I forget the name of the team. It was Puma FC or something? Or
I'm not a soccer guy, so you're asking the wrong guy. But
that was the most fun, random part of that day. But anyway, we made that announcement. Official Lion Stampeders Victoria Day holiday, Monday the 19th, 1:00. And that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I always like going to the island. I'm actually headed there this weekend.
Oh, good.
Just picking right back up. Yeah, not even unpacking the suitcase here, but excited.
How much of the Not Show is going to be on the island compared to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome? No.
Well, they weren't too. The prices were respectable for a Super Bowl. I got to keep my first adult beverage too. It was all branded out with that too. And I think
awesome.
Before we put a wrap on free agency, Jeshua Antwi went to the Calgary Stampeders. Josh Archibald to the Montreal Alouettes. Adrian Green to the Calgary Stampeders as well. And Emmanuel Rugamba to the Edmonton Elks. So, thank all of those guys for their service here the past couple of years.
All stand-up individuals, yes.
Exactly. It's a business, and that's how things work. So you're gonna gain some assets, but you're also gonna lose some in the process too. So Arch, Manny, AG, Jeshuan, wish them all the best, and on to their new teams.
Very well said. All right, we will get a breakdown from Bob the Moj Marjanovich, voice of the BC Lions, and veteran Super Bowl attendee, of course, as well. Coming up on First and Now, presented by World Vision Canada. And we've tracked him down. You know him as the Moj, one of the all-time greats in Canadian sports broadcasting circles. Just ask us. We can vouch for that. Bob Marjanovich. How about that for an intro?
How about the checks in the mail with an intro like that?
Yeah.
Seriously, who are you guys trying to impress with all that BS? I mean, come on.
Don't know.
Let's get real here.
We'll send you some Coors Light.
Hey, I'm surprised
vouchers.
Kowalski's in one piece after 5 days alone in New Orleans.
Made it.
Let's get into it. I saw, how was it? I mean, you hit all the spots, right? Patty O'Brien's.
Yep.
Emeralds.
So you and Kowalski have that in common now. You've both been to patios.
Was he overserved like I was?
No, actually, I was that night. How many did I have, Nick? 3 or 4?
You had 2 hurricanes back to back. I had one and another less strong.
I had like 3 or 4 hurricanes when it was all said and done, and that kind of put me over the edge. We had a really good night that night, and no, I mean New Orleans. Matt, you've been there. You know what it's like. The only difference this time was the police presence, and I've touched on that on a few hits.
Yeah.
Every block was basically, there were barricades, 4 barricades on every corner. Every corner there was probably about 10 cops or, state troopers or National Guardsmen. Every 2 blocks you would see a police car with its lights on, and that wasn't to mean there was a police incident. It was just the fact that, like, they're saying, hey, we're here, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could literally look down one of the side streets of Bourbon and probably see like 4 flashing lights, like, dispersed every 2 blocks. So tremendous police presence. Although I'll say this, they weren't intrusive. Somebody asked me, did you feel intimidated or scared? I said, man, I felt safe. Right. And I don't know how Nick felt about it, but for me, they weren't intrusive. They were fine. The thing that's kind of funny, though, was that I was there for the first Super Bowl after 9/11. And that also took place, obviously, in New Orleans. It was the one featuring the Patriots and the Rams. And that one, there wasn't as much police and military presence as we saw this time around. The only difference that I saw that time was that they had like fighter jets circling the city the entire week. But for the most part, this was way more police than that first Super Bowl after 9/11. But hey, I think everybody had a great time. I know Nick was there Sunday night on Bourbon Street after, a little bit busier. That was the thing that was surprising. I thought it was a little slow during the week. Nick and I went for a walk on Thursday night down Bourbon Street all the way to Lafitte's, and it was pretty slow. It wasn't crazy. And then obviously Friday, Saturday, Sunday, people started rolling in, and of course it became a little bit more of a gong show, so to speak.
Lafitte's the blacksmith bar, right?
Yes, all the way at the end of the street.
And a bourbon. Yeah.
Yeah. So great story with Kowalski. He met these, as he calls them, old people. They were probably in their 70s. It was like a pair of couples, and he just started chatting with them. We're sitting outside on a patio. We're both smoking our cigars because I gave Nick one, and we're sitting there talking, and Nick is trying to figure out his accommodations for the week, and he's going like, well, there's plan A, and well, plan B is, and then plan C, and I looked at him and go, just let you know. I go, you guys are like plan F. We had a good time chatting with those people. But yeah, Lafitte's, if you're ever in New Orleans, you got to go to Lafitte's. It's an amazing, I love that place. I mean, it's not a big, hipster joint. It's not like one of those places that's super packed. It's just historical, and it's neat to visit a place like that.
Well done. Yes. And it is, it's the best host city, my favorite one. Yeah.
I saw Mike Silver tweet about this. Of course, Matt, you know Mike from the Bay Area and all the interviews we've done with him in the past. And Mike was just the biggest proponent. He says they should just have this here at Super Bowl every year. Every year they should have it in New Orleans. I'm with them. It's just, I just think it's a great city. It's got a lot of culture, a lot of it's just a different vibe to it. Everything's compact. It's not like Jacksonville where, you had to take an hour to get from one press conference to another, or from one event to another. I love New Orleans, and the hotels were jacked up, but guess what? Hotels are jacked up everywhere.
Yeah.
And unlike Vegas, where you have to pay like $32 Canadian for a Pepsi, most of the prices were like decent. So it wasn't like it was crazy. Like, and the other thing too, everybody talks about Vegas. I'm like, give me a break. The city's like overpriced. It's all about how much bling you have, this, that, and there's no character to Vegas. None, zero. Right, that's the thing I love about New Orleans. There's so much character to that city. I mean, Nick took the mule and carriage tour that I've done in the past, and just learning about all the different buildings in the city. It's a really cool place.
Well, even the Louisiana swamp tour I took, it was very informative too. Like I learned that there's like 2.8 million alligators in the state of Louisiana, and the only scary thing about the whole New Orleans is the location. And my tour guide was telling me that the Gulf of Mexico is coming up and taking away their land with all the flooding in the water. So he was telling me that in 40 years.
The Gulf of America.
Gulf of America, yeah.
Gulf of America, yeah. My apologies.
Yeah.
-1.
You see our buddy Hokey Thibodeau when you're in the bayou out there in the swamp?
No, Captain Jason was my guy. He was electric.
I think Hokey was hibernating.
That's what baked him that night. He was wrestling alligators.
Did you see my guy? He was kissing them and feeding them marshmallows. I put him on my Instagram story. I should have put that on your account. It would have been your biggest video.
There you go.
Yeah, the alligator story, a little hazy memories for sure. But Anyway, I love this time of year. We all love this time of year because Super Bowl, all this we're talking about, and really it's kind of the unofficial launch to our season.
Just I want to throw one thing in there for people that are watching this that are Lions fans. The cool thing about going down there is just this 1 degree of separation that you have. There's so many people that take their shots at the CFL, but you talk to guys down there about the CFL and nothing but respect, right? I mean, you talk to Kyle Long, who's Bola Kumbo's roommate. We didn't even know until midway through the interview. You talk to Nate Burleson about his good friend Ryan Phillips. You talk to Doug Nessmeyer about his time, the Eagles quarterback coach who was part of the 2000 Grey Cup team. I mean, you just go on, and just the respect and the 1 degree of separation between the two leagues is awesome. But anyway, I just want to throw that in.
No, you're so right. I also seen it firsthand at the U.S. free agent camps I've gone to. Did a couple in Seattle. Went to Dallas one year, and then just people around and those just coming to check it out. It's football, right? It's
something cool with me too. When I was on Bourbon on Saturday and in the French Quarter, and I was trying to make friends and running into people all day. If someone said they knew SEC football, I would say, "Oh yeah, Keon Hatcher Sr. is up on the lines right now." And a couple guys that I met these people from South Carolina. They're like, "Oh, Hatch was a dog at Arkansas. He used to rip us up." And it's like, yeah, he's a pro athlete.
It's like I said, it's 1 degree of separation. It's not that much.
Amazing. So by our count, 7 additions on day 1 of free agency, Moj, 1 retained in Nathan Cherry. Overall, what stood out to you the most of all these moves by Rig Maiden, McAvoy and company?
For me, Micah Owie and Hendricks. And that's kind of attacking that front 7 and making a little bit more stout. And we talked about this. You need that nasty piece of business in the middle, a guy that's going to deliver a payload. And if there's anybody who fits that description, Micah Owie's one of those. There's I should say a couple of guys in the league, 2 or 3 guys, but Micah Owie's one of those guys, right? So for me, that was a huge signing to get that presence in the middle. Getting Hendricks as well, the former Tiger Cat and Argo. There's another guy that I think is going to make that middle better. So to me, those were the 2 that stood out. Foucault's career really kind of took off when he went to Edmonton. Hopefully he can continue his solid play with the Lions moving forward. So that gives you another big body. So those were the 3 that kind of stood out for me. And the other one too that I'm kind of interested in, I think Nick might have mentioned it when we were down in New Orleans, was Williams. I want to see what he's going to bring to the table. So that's another guy that I'm really interested in to see what he can do.
We'll let Nick jump in here in a minute, but it's clear that there's a couple of great competitions we're going to see up there in Kamloops, whether it's up front at guard on the offensive line, where these linebackers mix in. What are you most intrigued about there?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how they figure out the linebacking situation, because you got Owie. Here's the thing too that no one's talking about. Who do you think? Here's another possible big free agent impact player that you're bringing in this year. You know who it is?
Let's hear it.
Josh Woods.
Yeah.
Didn't play last year, right? I mean, bringing Josh back this year, hopefully he's 100% healthy. That's like signing a big-time free agent as well. So, he missed obviously all of last year other than that first game due to a knee injury, but getting him back in the fold, him and Micah, to anchor the linebacking core, and then you can, you have your rotation. I know Auclair played quite a bit for Saskatchewan last year. He wasn't just purely a special teams guy, but he got some reps playing for them. So you have Auclair, Konar, and Hladek all in the mix. So it's going to be interesting to see how that linebacking core kind of molds itself out. Because I'm really looking forward to it, because I think Josh Woods was poised for a big year last year. Hopefully he's going to be hungry. And here's the thing too with Woods. People might wonder, well, he's coming off an ACL. This is the second time around from different knee, but the second time around. So he knows what this whole process is about. He knows what it takes, and he knows what it's going to take for him to get back to his game. So, coming off an injury, a lot of times people have concerns, but with Josh, I don't have as much, like I said, because of the fact that he's already gone through this process once. So there's no unexpected hurdles or anything like that he might not be ready for.
Moj, on the other side of the ball, a lot of the dominoes fell the week before free agency and talks about the receivers. But what do you make of how all that played out? McInnes is back. Keon Hatcher Sr. is back. Alex Hollins has moved on. Sneaky addition in Ryzen John, in my opinion, a 6'7" Canadian receiver. But what do you make of that group right now?
Well, it's interesting. You hear this quite a bit. I know Julio talks about this. Your second year in the league is a little different than your first. Your third year in the league is a little different than your second, right? You just keep gaining that experience. And the other thing, too, is how you train, right? I mean, Ryzen John was trying to be a tight end in the National Football League, right? And to go from an offseason where you're working out trying to be a tight end to, now all of a sudden you're trying to be a receiver, well, that's a little different, right? So you kind of learn what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. The guy that I'm calling, as Ross Tucker would say, that X factor, for me, it's Braden Lenius. I'm really excited to see what he is going to do. And, there's a guy much like Ryson John, went to the National Football League, tried out as a tight end, got cut, came back, and it was almost like a lost year for him, right? And I think a lot of that, again, probably has to do with, the fact that you're bulking up as a tight end, you're gaining weight, you're not necessarily working on as much speed as you should as a receiver, per se. So there's a guy that I'm really intrigued by, because you know how Justin McInnes just popped while he was a Lion after they got him from Saskatchewan? And I think Braden Lenius, I don't know, I'm not saying he's going to be like an MVP candidate, but I think he's a guy that you should keep an eye on. I'm really excited to see what Braden Lenius brings to the table.
No, I like that a lot too. It has that McInnes vibe to it for sure. Now that the dust is kind of settled, though, I know we're still a ways away from training camp, but positional battles, what are you looking at right now?
Training camp, I'm here in Kamloops, baby. I'm driving by Hillside Stadium. I want training camp to start tomorrow.
He's scouting out after work locations is what he's doing.
I've got the game plan for that down pat. I went down to Redbeard Brewing today, had a nice little lunch. They got a go-to Nashville chicken sandwich. It's tremendous. They also have another like a Montreal type thing, smoked meat pastrami sandwich. Pardon me.
Okay.
So good. So I got you guys dialed in. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
What about those what about the sunrises out there? I know they're beautiful in the winter, right? With the mountains having the snow on them.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that's not so beautiful is like minus 17 today. All right, so
that's
you go
nothing.
from being like 20 degrees in Bourbon Street, and it's like as you know, Nick, it was like a little bit of humidity to pretty much bone jarring cold if you're not wearing one of those Aritzia Super Puff jackets.
Yeah, it's a good thing we got you that Grey Cup jacket last year. I think it was
thank
coming
you.
in
I'm telling
handy.
you, I wouldn't even be here right now if it wasn't for that thing. I'd hightail it back to Vancouver a couple of days ago.
What are some of the battles you're looking forward to right now? Like, I think the offensive line has some spots, right? I forgot.
Secondary to me is one that's going to be really fascinating. It's going to be a revamped secondary. So to me, I mean, you got Peters as a lockdown guy, right?
Yeah.
He's one corner. Maybe Jalen Edwards-Cooper on the other side. And then it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, they've got players. It's just, a guy like Boileau probably starts at safety, but it's going to be interesting to see how they fit the pieces, how they fit them into personnel packages, and where they go from there. So for me, the secondary is one area. The offensive line, of course, you got the two anchors in Allen and Broxton. You got Couture in the middle. Your guard, Foucault. Now, who's going to play that other guard? So that'll be interesting. Is it going to be Slugger? Is it going to be an American? Or pardon me, a Canadian? And the receiving core in terms of how it all kind of pairs, like, I should say the hierarchy of the receiving core. I think a guy who's going to have a really big year this year is Berryhill. I almost said Damon. Stanley Berryhill. I think he's going to have a really big year. I think that's one of the reasons they probably felt confident for moving on from Alexander Hollins at the price tag that he commanded. So I think Berryhill for me is a guy, another player who I think is going to have a big year for the Leos. They love his speed, and I think he's going to be a guy who, again, second year in the league, knows what to expect, knows how to train for it. I think that's a guy to watch for. Wouldn't surprise me in the least if he's an all-star.
Yeah, and you mentioned Hollins. I mean, Hollins, like Berryhill a couple years ago, was a name on a camp roster. No one knew who he was. And you're counting on these guys, and this is why Ryan and the scouts are out around the United States and everywhere trying to find that untapped potential, right?
Something that you touched on, and I'll kind of touch on this as well. And when you have, and this happened, I know it happened with Ryan and, dealing with Rick Campbell and the coaches, and it happens just about on any NFL or CFL team. So this isn't unique to BC. But when you have personnel people, they're seeing these players, they're evaluating them over the course of 2, 3, 4 years, right? They got a pretty good read on what this player is. Guy comes up to training camp, and after 5 days, your coaches are going, no. Well, hold on, give the kid a chance. He might be a little nervous trying to get acclimatized, all of those things. And the problem that you have is that coaches aren't willing to take that risk on a newbie, on a newcomer, especially when they've developed a sense of trust with the players that they've already seen as part of their organization for a year, 2 years, 4 years, whatever the case may be. So you kind of always have that conflict, right? And again, this is not just unique to the Lions. It's, I think, unique to all teams in pro football. So now that you have Ryan McMaden as the GM, right, I think you're probably going to see this team probably take a few more chances on players that they may not have with Rick Campbell as the GM and coach. You know where I'm going with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think because he's now the GM and has more input, obviously, into the roster, I think you're going to see some guys that maybe in years gone by, we're not going to take a chance. We'll stick steady with the guy that we got. No, let's give this kid a chance and see what happens with this kid moving forward.
Hey, before we let you go, this is great insight, as always. Our first chance talking to you since Buck, Pierce, and company rounded out the coaching staff. Still need to get a running backs coach. I think that's a work in progress. Should have something soon. But just your overall thoughts. A lot of experience when you go down the list. Randy Melvin, Benny still around. Was great to retain Ryan Phillips. One-year-old UBC guys, McDermott running the special teams now. What just your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I like the makeup of the staff. I like the fact that you have experience, you have some youth, but I think having Mike Benavides there as a resource for Buck Pierce is tremendous. And, it's like that bench coach in baseball where he's a former manager and, it just helps out. He just kind of, he's a sounding board. And I think that's going to benefit Buck greatly as a first-time head coach because there's going to be a learning curve. There always is when you're doing something for the first time, which he is being the head coach of the Lions. But, I just like the thing that kind of excites me about this season is just the change in attitude that you're hearing about, the fact that this team's going to be tougher, it's going to be grittier, there's going to be more accountability. So for me, I want to see how this moves forward. And to be honest, and I talked to Ryan about this, they're not going to get everybody that they want at all the positions they want in the first year. It's going to be, they're going to be competitive this year. Make no mistake about it. And if things go great, who knows? Maybe there's a real serious run at a championship. But the thing is, it's also the fact that this is a project. You just can't build a championship team in one offseason. So I think this is going to be interesting to see this year. It's going to be interesting to see how the players take to the new regime and what's expected of them. But I think players want that. Donnie Taylor says this all the time, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. Players want structure. They want to be coached, right? They want leadership. And they're going to get it with Buck Pierce and Ryan McMaden. So it's going to be exciting to see how it all falls into place.
Hey, Moj, one more from me here.
Let's keep going. I got no schedule, man. I'm up here till May, I think.
Well, I got a gripe with you because Kendrick, what was that all about?
Oh, my God.
Okay, I'll admit it wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst.
It was probably bottom 5 guaranteed.
No. Name
the best
5.
line I saw, they should have had closed captions underneath so people could understand what he was saying. And don't get me wrong, anybody that's out there going, oh, you're racist. That has nothing to do with race.
No.
Hell, I sat at the Playboy party in San Francisco 5 feet away from Snoop Dogg when he was spinning. So don't tell me that. I love Snoop. Snoop's awesome. 50 Cent's awesome. Kendrick Lamar, he mumbles the whole time. No energy, no nothing, no.
He was singing with SZA during Luther. Come on.
What was that?
He was singing with SZA during Luther, the song Luther.
Oh, pass. Just like, no.
Okay, who your top? Give me your top 3 then. Ever.
The only good thing about that, honestly, was the fact that he kind of dissed Drake, who I'm not.
Kind of.
He played the whole song.
This goes back to the Drake days, like when, hey, by the way, has anybody seen Drake at a Raptor game recently? Oh, the big Raptors fan, Drake. Yeah,
they still in the league?
He's there all the time. Guess what? I don't think you've seen him on the sidelines for like 3 years. So it's just like that guy said, Don't even get me going on.
Keep going.
You never saw Vince Vaughn at a Blackhawks game until they got good either. It's funny how that works, right?
The thing that bugs me about Drake is he's on the Raptors side, like where their bench is. He's an ambassador. He's technically an employee of the team. He's sitting there chirping players going back. No, you want to do that, you go sit on the other side like any normal fan. You want to chirp, go ahead, be my guest. But don't associate yourself with the team. Technically, as an employee, sit 3 feet away from their bench and act like you're in the game or you're playing. It's like, I'm so like, that was the best part about Kendrick Lamar. The whole thing about him, like his halftime show, but the fact that he dissed Drake, I'm on board with that.
I actually, the gathering I was at, there was too much talking and everything and people wondering what's, I have to go back and rewatch the halftime show. I felt I missed it because the people I was with, family, whatever, just, yeah.
A lot of Easter eggs. He said it was going to be about storytelling. There was storytelling throughout that. Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam. That was a great touch.
That was cool. Yeah, that was not
okay.
Bad.
Like, I'll give you a thumbs up on that, but you're expecting this big pop, and there wasn't. I mean, what, Serena Williams crip dancing? Was that the pop? I don't know.
Not like us was the pop, I think. But yeah, he's maybe not meant for Super Bowl. It was a good show. I'll give you, it wasn't the best. Are you Prince, I'm guessing, is the best, or U2 or Springsteen?
Well, people talk about Prince. For me, ironically, we were talking about this earlier. U2 playing the first Super Bowl after 9/11, and they played Beautiful Day, and they scrolled the names of the victims up the side of the stadium, and like it would go up and then right to the top of the Superdome, and then it just like kind of disappeared, and all the names would kind of flow up there. That was pretty damn emotional. It was pretty special for me. I'll never forget that, just because of the emotions involved. I know there's going to be fans out there that go, "Oh, you're dating yourself." No, U2. Well, at that time, I'll tell you what, that U2 show was a hell of a lot better than what we saw on Sunday with Kendrick Lamar.
Did they showed the Lady Gaga performance pregame on television, right?
Yeah.
That was really cool. I could
have
went to that.
And the funny thing is, well, remember Nick and I, we went to Lafitte's, and then we came back from Lafitte's and went to my bar. And we got to know one of the doormen there, Petey. Actually, I was, as Nick can attest to, I was an auxiliary doorman for like about 10 minutes.
There were women giving him their IDs to Moj. It was hilarious.
Oh yeah? All right.
I was sitting on a stool, and this young girl walks up, gives her ID, and look at you, go ahead. And I look over at Petey, like our buddy, the doorman. He's just shaking his head. He's like, "Hey man, keep it up. Don't worry." I go, "I used to do this. I know what it's like." So he's like, "Go ahead." But we talked to him that night, and he said, "This is my last night." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Fox has bought the bar the entire week, right? And they bought the bar, my bar, and I guess they bought all those bars on that block, right? They just bought them up for the entire week because they used that. That was the area where they actually filmed the Lady Gaga pregame special with all the Fox talent."
Yeah.
So think about how much money. Well, first off, the fact you're bringing in Lady Gaga to do like a special pregame show, few bucks there. And then the fact that you basically bought, I don't know, what, 8-10 bars on Bourbon Street for like 5 nights. You're saying, "Hey, we've got you covered on these nights. Here's 70 grand, 80 grand, whatever amount of money they make." It's a big chunk of change for that video. But yeah, it was pretty cool because Nick and I walked by there and you see all the scaffolding and they had everything up, and we never really put 2 and 2 together. And, Nick and I probably would have been there Wednesday night for that casting call at 2 a.m. in the morning had it not been for Whittingham feeding us, 3 gallons of wine when we were at dinner at Commander's Palace and basically just going back to the hotel room and falling asleep.
Yeah, probably that's a great story. It probably took you back to your days bartending at Hudson's Landing or whatever that was.
No. It wasn't Hudson's Landing. It was the Marpole's Flying
Club.
Back in the day.
I'm showing my age here. I remember that as, okay.
But yeah, it was, like I said, it was just a great experience and just a lot of fun. And it was, it was really cool, to be honest. Nick did an amazing job for us this week with all the stuff that we had on social media on the Real Moj, either on Instagram or Twitter. But, I've been to 17 of them. I've been to one in New Orleans, and I'm kind of like, "Look, I'm done. I don't need to go to a game." And Nick had this huge FOMO like on Thursday and Friday, and he's doing all the calculations. And this was this was probably the year to do it because the game tickets were face value, right? For whatever reason, people were afraid to come to the game. Maybe they had Chiefs fatigue. That probably was another thing that came into play. But tickets were face value. I go, "Nick, do it." I go, "Whatever it is, just do it." I go, "You'll thank me later." And it was a pretty penny for him to stay there for 4 extra nights, change his hotel. But tell you what, now you can say you've been to a Super Bowl and you're never going to forget that memory. And down the line, you'll say, yeah, it was worth that money. And it really was, and it was so cool because he worked so hard the entire week, and to see him enjoy the fruits of his labor on the tail end was pretty cool. So I was really happy for Nik, as was Mike Whittingham, the other member of our team.
Yep. You only live once, as they say.
No regrets there.
Absolutely. All right. We appreciate this. Always good to get a breakdown, and yeah, man. We'll before we know it, we'll be day-to-day Kamloops. All right.
Well, just to let you know, drove by Hillside today.
Awesome.
It's like -17. Field was clear, although there was snow on the sidelines. Like they had snowbanks. I guess they cleared the field for an event or something. So like there's probably like 2-3 feet snowbanks on the sideline. So it'll melt hopefully by May when the fellows are back up here for training camp, and you guys are as well. And looking forward to it. And we'll have I'll even have my German Shepherd ready for us too. Kai, where are you at? Come here. Kaya.
Yeah, before the Zoom link runs out, let's get Kaya on camera. They around?
Come up here. Come on.
Great podcasting right now.
She's being shy.
For those watching this on YouTube, there she is. Yeah. All right. Excellent, Moj. Appreciate it, boss.
All right, fellas, have yourself a good one. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, be safe.
Take care.
Excellent, as always, with the Moj. Covered a lot of ground, and yeah, going to be some exciting battles to look forward to, like we broke down before the interview on this episode of First and Now, but you can tell he's fired up.
Yeah, and I think we got all the New Orleans talk out of us, so if you're sick of it, I think we're all good from this point on, but lots of good stories and lots more we could tell as well.
Yeah. A quick opportunity here to promote some of our other content before we get into, well, you've got a trivia question, I think, to ask me.
Yeah.
Which I'm intrigued to hear in a minute. But Arrow Up episodes 5 and 6 dropping in the last 6-7 days or so. What do we got planned this year? Anything to tease yet? We have some ideas.
The home turf series could be in the works for 2025. As we were kind of saying this whole time, the 2025 season or the next season kind of begins once free agency starts. So wheels are turning now. Meetings are happening with the planning and all of that. But Arrow Up Home Turf is completely out. So if you haven't checked it out, it's 6 episodes, easy binge watching. Check it out this weekend. I'd highly recommend. I think this is rain in the forecast anyway, so you're not going to be missing anything out in Vancouver. But again, thank you to the Lee family, the Mackey family, and the White family. It was a privilege to be able to share their stories and tell the tale of the roller coaster that was the 2024 BC Lions.
A roller coaster it was indeed, and we should also promote, if you want to get caught up and learn about some of these new acquisitions or all of these, you're not familiar, BCLions.com, our free agency central page, has all of the breakdowns, and be sure to stick there and to our YouTube and everything for any other news that may come your way. You never know, day 2, 3 free agency sometimes offers up the odd surprise, so could be something else up our sleeves. We just don't know yet. All right, trivia time. What do you got?
Yeah, so I was in the plane yesterday and a lot of time on hand, and I was thinking about what we could do for the podcast, and I was curious about this, and this is cited from an article that you wrote, and it's related to one of our free agents. So we're going to bring back some trivia on tap style. We haven't done it since October, so I'm going to hit you with some trivia.
Hope I'm not too rusty.
Micah Awe, his CFL debut, because this is his 4th stint with the BC Lions, but his CFL debut came back on June 24th of 2017. He was not one of the 12 defensive starters that game. He was a backup will linebacker. Can you name me those 12 defensive starters? Do you have any good guesses at who was starting on defense for the BC Lions in June of 2017?
All 12 on defense?
Yeah, let's see what you got.
Solomon Elamamian?
Correct.
This was the year I think Big Hill went to New Orleans, so you can scratch Adam Big Hill, put that in your pipe and smoke it, as Don Taylor. There. Second Don Taylor reference on this episode.
I'll give you a half point for that. You're correct.
Oh, Alex Bazzie?
Alex Bazzie.
Or was he going to the NFL?
Incorrect.
Okay, so he left and came back.
A lot of vets.
TJ Lee.
Correct.
All right.
A lot of vets.
Would have been
his
first game back from the
first torn Achilles.
The first torn Achilles. Yep, suffered in 2016.
A lot of vets in the secondary. 2017.
Ryan Phillips was gone to Montreal, I believe. So this was a year. Yeah, we're talking about veterans who weren't brought back. David Menard.
Incorrect. He's listed as a backup to another.
Oh, you got the actual depth chart here.
Yeah,
okay.
So Matt Baker article.
Okay. Yeah, I would have wrote the article game preview. This was a loss to Edmonton, I think. Brandon Zylstra had a big touchdown or a big catch at the end.
Edmonton.
See, I remember that part.
I don't know the score. How about the safety still in the league?
Safety's still in the league. See, this is a long time ago,
He's
Nick.
a couple stints with the Lions.
Need another hint.
Likes to dress up. How's that for a hint?
Likes to dress up. Oh,
at a certain time of the year. How's a alter ego? Come on, these are good hints. I think.
I give up.
His number is not a number.
Oh, Purifoy.
Lucas Purifoy was a safety. What about some vets? Good DBs, memorable DBs. I would say a couple guys that were here. They went to Winnipeg in the defensive backfield.
Chandler Fenner.
That's a Sam. Yeah,
there you go.
There's one more.
Anthony Gator.
Correct.
There you go. Now we're cooking. See?
What about TJ's corner? TJ was a half. Who's the corner? Another long-time BC line.
Ronnie Yell.
Ronnie Yell.
There we go.
Correct.
There we go. See? Just took a few minutes to get warmed up.
You're missing the field corner. I believe he was Canadian. I like this player actually back in the day. Yeah, he was. Was he Canadian?
I'm trying to think D-line, though. Who am I? Max Ford?
Max Ford is incorrect. He was a backup. He was a backup to a D tackle that was most known for being in Winnipeg. I think he had 1 year here.
Westerman?
No. D tackle. Good D tackle for the Bombers too. Kind of forgotten about. Back in their bad days, he was a bright spot.
I give up that one.
Bryant Turner
Jr. Yes.
The late Craig Rowe was starting over David Menard.
Love Craig.
Do you remember who was starting over Micah? I remember you wrote about it. There was a kind of a battle between the will spot.
I mean, it was a big story because Big Hill had left and I always came in.
I like this name. He was in Winnipeg.
He was.
Didn't really pan out, unfortunately, but I like them.
I give up.
Tony Burnett, yeah.
Tony Burnett. Had the long dreadlocks.
Yeah, and then Anthony Thompson is a field corner.
For a second-round draft pick.
Yep. You're missing a D tackle. East Carolina. I don't think he played too long. I think he was in the Lions for a couple of years.
Mikhail Brooks.
Yeah, there you go. And then the last guy's a D end that I've actually not heard of. I don't know if he had a long career. Kentucky. Word number 94.
94. Not Claudel Lewis.
No.
Because he wore 94 a couple years later.
Lewis is not on this roster either.
Played at Kentucky?
That's his university that's listed, on the depth chart you made.
Would have been a Jamie Cartmel depth chart in 2017, but yes. Hit me.
DeQuinn Evans?
Yeah.
Do you remember that name?
Yeah, we just remember the Seattle free agent camp we went to.
He was there. Oh,
yeah.
yes. Okay, yeah. Okay. I do remember this, yeah.
There you go. I ended up doing okay at the end.
That's pretty good. Yeah, he started to rattle off those DBs like nothing.
8 years ago now. Hard to believe. Yeah, 2017, a year that began with some pretty big expectations, of course, after a 2016 bounce back, crazy playoff win against the Bombers, of course, but alas, it was not meant to be. It's good. Should do this again.
Yeah, I can make it an off-season thing. No problem. I like these kind of questions.
But yeah, if you go back and watch those game highlights, that was the year Zylstra led the league in receiving, I think.
He was even back to New Orleans, the rich guy was sitting beside a Bills fan. So my first words on my mouth is, Duke Williams. I played for Edmonton back in the day. It was Zylstra, and he knew Duke. He thought Duke was going to stick around. So again, the CFL is a legit. You
ask him about Paris Jackson? He had a cup of coffee with the Bills before he. Yeah.
Duke was a name that came to mind. I'm always just trying to get one.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Go for it or punt. What do you got?
So I don't know if they even showed this on the game feed, the television feed, but at the Super Bowl, my borderline favorite part of the game, the part where I got the chills really came in, was the team entrances. And the reason I think that they got elevated by so much was John Hamm did the Kansas City Chiefs, and then Bradley Cooper did the Philadelphia Eagles. We got to make that a thing in the CFL, I think, or any sport, because a celebrity,
right.
John Hamm yelling out, "You're two-time defending champion Kansas City Chiefs," and then the chops come out. Oh, I got chills. And then the Bradley Cooper comes right back and hits him back with the Eagles entrance. That was electric. So I'm going for those celebrity entrances. I think it's a smart idea. I know it would have been. I think it was talked about a little bit, but 50 Cent coming out with our team for the home opener. That was discussed, I think, a little bit. Ultimately didn't happen, but if that could happen, could you imagine if we had many men blasting 50 Cent being like, "You're 2024 BC Lions," how electric that would be. So got to get those in the works here.
Kind of reminds me, remember, speaking of U2, for years, the Canucks skated out to where the streets have no name.
Yeah.
And they brought it back for the playoffs last year, the game we went to, game 1 against Nashville. There was a wild rumor during the 2011 Cup final. There was a crazy rumor, I don't think it was valid at all, well, it wasn't in the end, that they were going to perform that live. Because it turned out they were in Edmonton during one of the games in Vancouver, and they were going to come in and do it here. They were recording an album here, but just one of those crazy rumors. Anyway, I'm also going with something for Go For It that I really wish we do in the CFL. I love the Super Bowl logo patches on the jerseys.
Yeah, everything was branded well too.
But like, why not? I mean, maybe the Roman numeral makes it look good too, but put the Grey Cup logo on each team's jersey.
Well, even the adult
seems simple, but
even like everything you saw had the Super Bowl LIX on it. Even like the adult beverage I had, it had had the logo on it. So you take it home, memorabilia. I'm with you there.
So did you keep that bottle like in your pocket the rest of the night? What the hell did you do?
Well, I had 3 of them as a responsible adult.
Only 3. Okay.
Drink responsibly.
That put you back another few hundred. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then maybe 300 back on Bourbon Street later.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. No, that move, I held on to it like it was still full. I was walking around with a beer. Got us
perfect.
We're walking around with the empty beer bottle all day at the game. I thought it was a vet move, but we'll see.
Yeah, the branding, you're right. It's very, very
looks good. Look good in pictures. I mean, I had 3 of them, so it's not like I was holding it for 3 hours and I had it in my seat, so worked out.
Punting, what do you got?
Oh, this applies to anywhere, but in New Orleans it's really bad. When it's a lot of foot traffic, this gets really bad. So people that are in groups and they're walking and they walk like horizontally. So because the sidewalk's only 8 feet wide. But when a group of 5 people are walking in a horizontal line instead of like a vertical line, so you're walking at them like you're about to play like Red Rover. You got to like find a passage through them. I can't stand when people do that. It's like I always try to make an emphasis. If I see people coming towards us and I'm in a group, I always try to get behind the person or get in front of the person that I'm with, because it's no worse than when you got to like walk through a group and you're like literally, like Derrick Henry trying to go through the E-gap of a group coming at you, or Red Rover or whatever you want to call it. I'm punting that every time.
Yeah.
Got to get your walking etiquette down in public.
It's common sense is what it is.
Exactly. All
right, we've hit on this already, but it's what I had written down. The halftime show complainers. Like 10 years from now, who's even going to... All these people won't even remember who did what halftime show. If you don't like the halftime show, no one's forcing you to watch. You can get up, go to the bathroom, go refill your beverage, go put some more appetizers in the oven or cook up some more snacks. Change the channel. Who cares?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yelling at a cloud.
Yeah. And I didn't love it. Like it, but
it's for the
am I gonna let it ruin my experience? No.
The show is for the culture, as a wise BC Lion once said.
Yeah. Yes. As a wise one did. All right. They not like us as we rattle through here. I think we're both going Philadelphia Eagles here. Why not? Go ahead.
Well, shout out Cooper DeJean. You're my not like us, because the pick 6 he had in the Super Bowl. My boy Rich and I up in the upper deck, we were playing a little bit of armchair quarterback when the plays forming, and I'm seeing D-Hop run that over out, and I'm like, yeah, Mahomes is rolling out. I'm saying D-Hop, you got D-Hop, and we're saying that a lot when you trying to see the play develop. And I'm like, D-Hop, he's open. And the next thing you know, Mahomes throws in. Cooper DeJean, the birthday boy, the rookie DB, takes it back all the way. Legendary moment, and good for him. The Eagles. I know you're going to get into this, but they've been drafting so well, and that's why they are the world champions right now.
Yeah, we can say it. They were the best team in football all year. Really, what was it? 11 straight wins. At one point there in the regular season after a shaky start, and Howie Roseman, the GM, they not like us. 2 Super Bowl titles, but 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different head coaches. Takes a lot of stones to move off of a Carson Wentz, but you look at what they did with the draft capital. It was your Indianapolis Colts who were the dance partner in that trade, my boy.
The victim.
Yeah. That trade enabled them to get Devontae Smith, some other great work trading with the New Orleans Saints. You get a first-round pick in that deal that becomes Jalen Carter, and that's amazing. Jalen Carter, Saquon Barkley really didn't stand out in the Super Bowl, but it didn't matter because they're the most complete team, and they showed that. So Howie Roseman probably punched his ticket to the Hall of Fame the other night.
Easily, yeah. And I just,
and they're not going to be going anywhere for a long time. So.
No, some free. I know they got guys like Milton Williams. That was a beastie tackle, forced a fumble. He's a free agent, but yeah, they're pretty much in set. Jalen Hurts, Saquon, like happy for those guys, and yeah,
they had to pay Jalen Hurts yet. I think so.
I think it kicks in like a year or two. Though, is what I was listening to.
It's good that they've had this run now. So, but yeah, you don't put anything past this GM. All right, that was
jam-packed.
That was a smorgasbord of football fun, and very good. It's great to be talking free agents. It's great to be talking about training camp, the draft, the combine. All that is coming up here quick, and love it. First and Now, presented by World Vision Canada, official charity partner of your BC Lions. Be sure to subscribe, rate, leave a review. Head to YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts here for all of our great episodes. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'll have a Las Vegas review, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll make it fun on First and Now. Thank you, everybody.